2 cops in uniform were standing at my front door, saying they got a tip about child abuse. My chopsticks paused in midair, a braised egg dangling from them. Behind me was my 400 square foot bachelor pad. The place was littered with empty Coke cans and old game controllers. I didn't even have a girlfriend, so there was absolutely no way I had a kid. That is, until their eyes landed on my computer. Their faces instantly dropped. The screen was absolutely covered with pictures of kids. The guy was in his early 30s, with a square jaw. His eyebrows were tied in a tight knot. The female cop was a bit younger. She was clutching a notepad, the cap of her pen chewed to hell and back. Chen Yifan? Yeah, that's me. Blank street, blank complex, building blank, apartment blank. Right, we're from the local precinct. We got a tip from the neighbors. The male cop paused. His eyes swept over the room behind me. Someone reported you for child abuse. The noodle slipped right out of my chopsticks and plopped back into the bowl. Hot soup splashed onto the back of my hand. I didn't even feel the burn. My brain just fizzled, like an old TV getting smacked. Just completely short-circuiting into static. Abuse? A kid? I looked back and scanned my apartment. There was a tower of 3 empty Coke cans on my computer desk. My t-shirt from yesterday was tossed on the couch. The front read, "Don't talk to me. I am AFK." The instant ramen on the coffee table was still steaming. Next to it was a game controller, knocked sideways. The bedroom door was wide open. The pillow only had 1 head dent in it. Officer, I gulped. Are you guys sure you got the right person? I don't even have a girlfriend. The female cop's pen stopped moving. The male cop didn't say a word. His eyes suddenly locked onto something behind me. Then how do you explain the noises coming from inside? What noises? The words had barely left my mouth when a piercing shriek blasted from my computer speakers. Help! He's hitting me. He's chasing me. Somebody do something. It was the in-game voice chat that I'd forgotten to mute. A grown man screaming at the top of his lungs. Muffled through the door, it actually did sound a bit like a kid crying. The 2 cops and I all whipped our heads toward the computer at the exact same time. A rank match was still running on my screen. My character was just standing in the fountain, totally AFK. My teammate was getting chased all over the map by the enemy team, howling like a banshee in the voice channel. Is that your teammate? The male cop asked. Yeah, he's like this every day. Depends on his mood, really. If we're winning, he shuts up. The cop took a deep breath and slowly let it out. I knew that look. He was using every ounce of his professional training to fight the urge to punch me in the face. Mr. Chen, we're going to need to come in and take a look around. Come in, come in. I stepped aside. The female cop's heel stepped right onto a takeout bag I'd thrown on the floor. There was a loud crunch as she crushed a chicken bone. She glanced down, then silently lifted her foot and kicked the bag over to the door. The male cop was looking around the place. He pushed the bathroom door open. A pair of dirty underwear was draped over the showerhead. The laundry soap bubbles hadn't even been rinsed out yet. He quietly shut the door and slid open the balcony door. 3 identical pairs of flip-flops were lined up in a row. The only difference was how worn out they were. He gently closed it again, walked to the bedroom door, and peeked inside. A single bed. No second pillow. Not a single trace of another person living here. I stood next to my instant noodles, with my arms crossed. Officer, wanna check under the bed? Just in case I hid the kid down there? The male officer didn't laugh. The female officer's mouth twitched slightly. But the very next second, the male officer walked over to the computer desk and stopped dead in his tracks. I followed his gaze. Oh crap, I forgot to close my work tabs. The screen was filled with rows and rows of photos. All kids, from 3 to 12 years old, boys and girls, and right below each one was a line of data. Name, age, city, age status. The male officer turned his head to look at me. His eyes were completely different from 30 seconds ago. What is this? I opened my mouth, just about to explain, when my phone on the coffee table buzzed. The screen lit up. The message pop-up was facing right at him. The contact name was Boss, and the message read, "How are we doing with this batch of kids? Don't just slack off playing video games." The heating was cranked up way too high, and my forehead instantly broke out in a sweat. The male officer stood across from me, hands crossed and resting on the table. Mr. Chen, we're gonna need you to come down to the station with us to cooperate with our investigation. His tone was polite, but his actions sure weren't. He didn't hesitate to yank the power cord right out of my computer and tossed it, along with my phone, straight into a clear evidence bag. The instant noodles on the table were dead cold. The egg yolk had sunk right to the bottom of the broth. The chairs at the station were hard plastic. Sit on them long enough, and your skin starts sticking to the seat. I'd been sitting there for 40 minutes. Across from me, the male officer was scrolling through my phone, looking like he was reading a thriller novel. The female officer sat next to him, taking notes. Mr. Chen, care to explain? He turned the phone screen toward me. The massive amount of children's photos and data spreadsheets on your computer. What's that all about? It's my job. What kind of job? I'm a programmer. I manage data for the Firefly Children's Charity Fund. I work remotely. He emphasized every single word. So, you are home alone. With all these kids' photos and personal information saved on your computer. The suspicion in his voice couldn't have been more obvious. It's not what you think. I'm not thinking anything. He kept a straight face. Go on. These photos and data all belong to the foundation. I'm in charge of organizing the data and maintaining the system. I track every kid's charity progress. And archive their files. I handle all of it. The female officer glanced up at me. Do you have an employment contract? Yeah, it's on my computer. We're going to need to run a thorough check on your computer. I took a deep breath. Fine. The male officer went back to scrolling through my phone. His fingers suddenly stopped. March 12th. You bought a box of diapers. My brain went completely blank. I bought them for a coworker. Which coworker? An ex-coworker. From my old job. His wife just had their second baby. What's his name? Zhang Wei. His contact info? I think I deleted his number. He slowly shifted his gaze from the screen to my face. I knew that look all too well. It meant, you're messing with me on purpose. Just then, the female officer scrolled through the history and suddenly spoke up. His food delivery history is quite interesting too. The male officer leaned over to look. I knew exactly what she had found. Over the past 3 months, I ordered takeout about 4 times a week. At least 2 of those were kids' meals. 16 yuan and 80 cents a pop. It came with a burger, fries, and a cola. The portion was just perfect for an adult with a small appetite like me. But the receipts clearly stated, kids' meal. Plain as day. You're a grown man. Female officer looked up at me. And you frequently order kids' meals? To save money. She didn't say a word. Her lips just pressed into a thin, hard line. Scrolling down further, the package delivery history was even more spectacular. In the past 2 months, my address had received a massive amount of packages labeled as children's clothing, children's shoes, and children's stationery. Those were charity supplies sister he asked me to help forward. The donors shipped them to me. I sorted and repacked them, then shipped them out together to the mountain villages. But on every single shipping label, the recipient was clearly listed as me. Looking at a whole screen of these records, I finally knew what it felt like to look guilty as sin with absolutely no way to clear my name. Kids' photos, kids' measurements, kids' meals, diapers, children's clothing, all for a single, grown man living alone. Who doesn't even have a girlfriend? Honestly, if I were the cops, I'd suspect me too. The male officer set down his phone, tapped his fingers on the table twice. Before Ms. He Shu Yun gets here. Do you have anything else you want to confess? I thought for a moment. That kid's meal is honestly really good. His eye twitched. Sister he hadn't arrived yet. But a booming, energetic voice echoed from the hallway first. It was Auntie Wang. Didn't even know her full name. I'd only moved here 3 months ago. And just knew her last name was Wang. She was a retiree in her 50s. With the boundless energy of a perpetual motion machine. She was standing out in the hallway. Wearing a maroon puffer jacket, her hair permed into tight little curls. With a solemn look on her face you'd normally only see on the evening news. Officer, I'm the one who reported him. Her voice was so incredibly loud it made the whole hallway ring. The male officer motioned for her to come in and take a seat. She sat down and shot me a glance. How'd I even describe that look? It wasn't like she was looking at a human being. It was more like looking at a nasty bug she'd just rooted out with her own 2 hands. She had the smug pride of a hunter who just bagged their prey. Officer, let me tell you. She lowered her voice, but it was still loud enough to carry all the way to the duty room next door. I knew something was off about him the very first day I moved in. Could you be more specific? In his room, she pointed at me with her chin. There are noises in the middle of the night. What kind of noises? Crying. A little kid whimpering and crying. It sounded so awful. At first, I thought it was just the television. But then I realized it wasn't. The crying came in waves. And there was an adult yelling in between. What was the adult yelling? Auntie Wang's eyes lit right up, and she pulled out a pink phone case from her pocket. It even had a sequin flower stuck to it. I recorded it. She tapped the audio file and pressed play. Yes, the background static was heavy, like it was recorded right through a wall. But the voices were definitely clear. First, there was some off and on wailing. Then a man's voice cut through the wall, every single word crystal clear. How can you be so stupid? A 2-second pause. How many times have I told you? Then, another bout of wailing. Keep crying and I'll throw you right out. Auntie Wang pressed pause and looked up at the male officer. Her expression clearly said, you hear that? Ironclad evidence. The male officer looked at me. 3 pairs of eyes, 6 pupils. All pinned right on me. I sat there on the plastic chair. My mouth opened and closed, then closed and opened again. I hesitated for a second. Officers, do you guys play League of Legends? The air completely froze for about 3 seconds. The male officer's finger stopped tapping the desk. The female officer's pen hovered in mid-air. Even Auntie Wang was stunned. Those things in the recording, I tried to keep my voice as steady as possible. I said them while I was playing a ranked match. How can you be so stupid? Was because the support stole my red buff. How many times have I told you? was because I told him 7 times not to tower dive. But he just had to rush in. Keep crying and I'll throw you out, was because after he died, he just wailed into the mic. I was telling him to shut up. I paused again. That crying sound, that was him too. He's 26 years old, 6 feet tall, 220 pounds. Diamond 4 rank. When he gets absolutely crushed by the enemy team, he cries exactly like a 3-year-old kid. I really can't help it. Auntie Wang's mouth slowly closed. Then it slowly opened again. Impossible. That was clearly the sound of a little kid. Auntie, I tried to keep my cool. My teammate really is 220 pounds. But his crying voice is just naturally high-pitched. There's nothing I can do about it. The male officer slowly turned his head to look at the female officer. She just lowered her head and quickly scribbled a line in her notebook. I caught a quick glimpse. Read something like, suggest further verification. But the tips of her ears were completely red. We were stuck in a standoff. The door was pushed open, and a gust of cold wind carrying a jasmine scent slipped right in. Sister he arrived, 52 years old, skinny but tough, wearing a long black coat. Walking with authority, she scanned the people in the room. Her eyes stopped on me for 1 second, and on Auntie Wang for 2 seconds. Finally, they landed on the male police officer's face. I'm He Shuyan, director of the Firefly Children's Charity Foundation. Here is my ID. These are the foundation's registration documents. And this is Chen Yifan's employment contract and proof of employment. 3 documents. Smack, smack, smack. She slapped them onto the table. Crisp and professional, the male officer took them and flipped through. His tight frown slowly relaxed. Ms. He, what about the children's photos and data on his computer? Those are archive files of children our foundation supports. He's in charge of data entry and maintenance. Every single photo has an authorization form signed by a guardian. I brought the backups with me. She pulled another stack of papers from her bag. The male officer flipped through them. He nodded. I let out a massive sigh of relief. Finally, someone could prove that I wasn't some kind of creep. Then what about all those packages he receives? The children's clothes, and stationery and stuff? The female officer chimed in. For donated supplies in transit, sister he answered sharply. Our foundation doesn't have a physical warehouse. Some of the supplies get sent to our volunteers' homes first. They get sorted, and then shipped out together to the locations that need them. Then what about the diapers? Sister he froze for a second. She turned to look at me. I bought those to help a former coworker reach a bulk discount. I quickly explained. Yeah, that has absolutely nothing to do with us. Sister he cut ties in a split second, showing zero hesitation. The male officer closed the folder and leaned back into his chair. Well, everything seems pretty clear up to this point. Right at that moment, his phone rang. He picked it up and listened for a few seconds. His newly relaxed eyebrows frowned once again. He put it on speaker. Hello? Is this the police station? It was a young man's voice. The background was super loud. There was music, people shouting, and the clinking of glasses. I'm Chen Yifan's friend, Lu Lang. Bro, are you actually at the police station? I got your WeChat message. What the hell happened? I glanced down at my phone. Oh, right. While I was waiting for Sister He, I casually texted Lu Lang saying I was at the police station. Didn't tell him why. Hello, Mr. Lu. We are currently verifying the situation. What is your relationship with Chen Yifan? College roommates. We're best bros. Are you familiar with his daily routine? Yeah, of course. He's just a massive shut-in. Stays home all day playing games and eating instant noodles. Barely even steps out of the house. The male officer shot me a glance and asked a question I absolutely did not see coming. Do you know if he's ever kept any pets? There was a pause on the other end of the line. Oh, the cat. He used to have an orange cat, but then he got allergic to the fur. So he gave him to me. Is the cat with you right now? Yeah, he's doing great, jumping all over the place. I just finished feeding him his milk. The male officer's hand froze on the desk. The female officer's pen stopped dead on the paper. Ms. He frowned, and Auntie Wang leaned forward another half-inch. Finished feeding. What? The male officer asked. Milk. Cat formula. This cat is super picky. Suddenly, the background music flared up. Someone shouted something in the background, and then the call just dropped. It cut off right after. The words, just finished feeding his milk. I looked at the male officer's face. His lips twitched, like he was chewing on a really sour plum. He meant the cat. I quickly explained. It really is a cat. An orange cat, 6 months old. I used to have him, but I gave him away because of my allergies. Do you have pictures? I opened the photo album on my phone. I pulled up a social media post from 3 months ago. From now on, this little guy is part of my life. The picture attached was a little orange furball, curled up on my slipper. The photo was super blurry. If you didn't look closely, you really couldn't tell if it was a cat, a fuzzy hat, or a human baby. The male officer stared at that picture for a solid 30 seconds. Couldn't you have taken a clearer picture? My hands were shaking at the time. He handed the phone back to me, took a deep breath, and let out a long, heavy sigh. It was like he was trying to exhale a whole night's worth of pure exasperation. He turned to Auntie Wang. Ma'am, based on what we're seeing right now, well, his late-night noise complaints are still real, aren't they? Auntie Wang suddenly shot up from her chair, pointing a finger right at my face. Even if it's not child abuse, he's still wailing like a ghost in the dead of night. I'm not wrong about that, am I? Ma'am, for noise complaints, you can take that up with building management. What good is building management? I've reported him 3 times. They haven't even given me a single reply. Ma'am, please, sit back down. We're going to handle this one thing at a time. I sat in my chair, looking at Auntie Wang's bright red face. And the male officer's rapidly draining patience. I saw Ms. He, glaring at me with this look that screamed, how did you manage to provoke someone like her? The smell of instant ramen still lingered on my fingertips. That bowl of noodles, it was definitely going to be ruined by the time I got back. But this wasn't over yet. The male officer told Auntie Wang to head home first, but she absolutely refused to budge. Officers, you can't just let him go like this. Ma'am, right now, we have absolutely no evidence to support your accusations. The photos and data of the children have already been verified as charity work materials. So the voice in the recording has a reasonable explanation. But did you guys actually verify it? Auntie Wang lifted her chin. He says he was just playing a video game, and you just believe him? Make him play around right now and see for yourselves. The room went dead silent for a second. The male officer looked at me, then glanced over at the corner. At the auxiliary officer who had barely said a word. He was about 24 or 25, with a round face and small eyes. He had his head down on his phone the whole time, completely blending into the background. Well, the male officer hesitated for a moment. I think that's a good idea. The female officer suddenly chimed in. She closed her notebook, looking dead serious. Having the subject do a live demonstration to compare with the audio recording can serve as corroborating evidence. She sounded incredibly professional, but I could clearly see the faintest hint of a smile hiding at the corners of her mouth. The male officer stayed silent for 3 seconds, then nodded. Mr. Chen, please cooperate and give us a quick demonstration. Just do exactly what you normally do when you game. He handed my phone back to me. I sat back down in my chair and logged into the game. I put my headphones on, but then immediately took them back off. I need to put it on speaker, I said. I always play with the sound out loud at home. The male officer nodded. I queued up for a rank match. The screen lit up. Matchmaking. Sister, he leaned against the doorframe, crossing her arms with a look that clearly said, let's see how much you embarrass yourself. Auntie Wang sat bolt upright, like a plaintiff waiting for the final verdict. Match found. I picked my champion and loaded into the game. The first 2 minutes were completely peaceful. I just focused on farming my minions. My fingers swiped across the screen, occasionally pinging a signal. Minute 3. My support rotated over to my lane. I took a deep breath, and held my tongue. Minute 4. The support flashed right in and completely fed them first blood. I completely lost it. Bro, what the hell are you doing? My voice blasted from the speaker and echoed all around the interrogation room. Minute 5. The enemy jungler came down to gank me, and my support just stood there watching. Didn't use a single ability. I died. Are you freaking blind? My voice instantly shot up an octave. Minute 6. The support typed in chat, if you're a trash marksman, just shut the hell up. My fingers stopped for a second. Then, I turned on my mic. I'm trash? Take a look at your own stats. 0 and 3. Do you even deserve to be in this rank? Minute 7. The enemy mid laner tower dived us. My support fired their ability backwards and literally pushed the enemy back to safety. I died again. How are you this stupid? The words squeezed out of my throat, literally shaking with pure rage. How many times do I have to tell you? Stop blowing your cooldowns for nothing. Are you deaf? I'm right here in voice chat. The support started whining, playing the victim. Why are you being so mean? Why am I being mean? I was so pissed off I jumped straight up, sending my chair sliding back half a meter. With a loud screech, I yelled, you still have the nerve to complain? Keep crying. One more word and I'm kicking you out. Those exact words blasted out of the phone speaker, echoing through the entire room. The words, the tone, and the pitch matched Auntie Wang's recording to a T. It was completely identical. I stood there panting heavily, glancing down at my score. 0 kills, 4 deaths, 0 assists. When I looked back up, Auntie Wang's mouth was hanging slightly open. She was totally speechless. Sister, he was covering her mouth, her shoulders shaking. She was trying so hard to hold in her laughter. The female officer had her head down, hiding her face behind a notebook. The tips of her ears were so red they looked like they were bleeding. The male officer just stared at me, deadpan. His expression was complicated, but the auxiliary officer in the corner, who had been staring at his phone this whole time. His screen was lit up too. It was the exact same game. The exact same ranked match. From his point of view, right above the support champion he was playing, a little icon had just popped up, saying, player reported. He slowly looked up. I slowly turned my head. Our eyes met, so. His voice was a little dry. The guy on the mic just now, screaming and asking if the support even had parents. That was you. Yeah, that was me. Sorry. He placed his phone face down on the desk, picked up his mug, and took a sip of water. His hands were shaking. The entire police station fell into a deeply awkward silence. You know the kind. The kind of silence where everyone has a million things to say, but nobody knows where to start. Finally, the male officer broke the ice. He cleared his throat. The events in the game roughly matched the audio in the report. He picked up his pen and jotted something down on the form. Then he put the pen back down. Mr. Chen, when you play games in the future. He paused. Wear headphones. By the time we walked out of the police station, it was already pitch black outside. Sister, he walked beside me, her high heels clicking against the pavement. Click, clack, click, like a metronome. Yifan, yeah? That game you were playing. Sister, can we please just drop it? No. She stopped in her tracks and turned to face me, the streetlights highlighting the laugh lines around her eyes. Do you have any idea how terrifying your computer desktop is? Even knowing the context, it gives me the creeps. Let alone an outsider. I know those photos are for work, but couldn't you just put them in a folder? Do you have to plaster them all over your screen? I'll be more careful next time. She let out a heavy sigh. She pulled her scarf tighter. Alright, head on back. And don't forget, this week's data is due. Got it. She took a couple of steps, then turned back around. Lay off the instant noodles. They're basically zero nutrition. With that, she ducked into the taxi. I stood there under the streetlight, the cold wind biting at my collar. My phone buzzed. It was a WeChat message from Lu Lang. Bro, what the hell is going on? Why did the call just drop? Did you actually end up at the police station? What did you even do? I couldn't be bothered to type, so I just sent a voice note. It's nothing, just a misunderstanding. I'll tell you later. He replied, alright, so are we teaming up tonight or what? I stared at his message for 3 seconds, and fired back 2 words. Get lost. I walked back to my apartment building. I stood out front for a bit, looking up. The window on the right side of the 4th floor was lit. The curtains weren't drawn all the way, leaving a slight gap. That was Auntie Wang's place. Right next door was my unit. Pitch black, looking exactly like a tightly shut mouth. I headed upstairs. As I passed Auntie Wang's door, I could hear her TV playing inside. It was one of those true crime shows. The host was saying, in recent years, the plague of malicious reporting has continued unabated. Not only wasting valuable public resources, the volume suddenly dropped. I didn't stop, just kept walking straight to my door. I dug out my keys, unlocked it, and pushed the door open. The instant noodles were still sitting on the coffee table, completely swollen into one giant, soggy clump. The broth was freezing cold, with a nasty film of grease floating on top. The soy sauce egg had sunk to the bottom, half of its yolk exposed. Looking like a head trying to hide from the world, I picked the bowl up and dumped it all in the trash. I wiped down the table and booted up my computer. Photos and spreadsheets were still scattered all over my screen. I just stared at them for 3 seconds. Right-click, new folder, folder name, work files. I dragged everything into it. My desktop was finally clean, completely spotless, with only the game shortcut and the recycle bin sitting there all alone. I launched the game and logged in. Over on my friends list, that guy named Iron Fist Invincible Zhao Dabao, the auxiliary cop, had his profile picture lit up. He had just added me. His friend request message read, next time you start flaming someone, make sure you know what your teammate does for a living. I hesitated for a couple of seconds. Then I typed back, next time, I'll carry you up the ranks. I hit send. He replied instantly, no thanks. I'm scared your neighbor might call the cops again. I stared at the screen and let out a little smirk. I didn't actually start a match. It wasn't that I didn't want to play. I just suddenly remembered something. In that audio clip Auntie Wang had recorded, besides the sounds of me raging at my game. And there was another sound I didn't catch at the time, right around. About 10 seconds after that line, if you keep crying, I'll throw you out. There was this really soft, brief sound. It wasn't my voice, and it wasn't from the game. It drifted in from the hallway. A single cat meow. It was my orange tabby. Before I rehomed him 3 months ago, he always used to sit by the door and meow in the middle of the night. The week Auntie Wang moved in, he was meowing like crazy. The cat was skittish around strangers. He'd get super restless whenever he smelled someone new. So, that crying sound Auntie Wang heard? Half of it was my 200-pound teammate howling, and the other half was this tiny 6-pound orange tabby. A grown man and a little kitten, teaming up to create a suspected child abuse case. I lay back down on my single bed, just staring blankly at the ceiling. There was a water stain up there, and it had a really weird shape. It looked just like a hand flipping the bird. I closed my eyes and ran through tomorrow's to-do list. The data had to be submitted. 300 rescue logs still needed to be entered, and I needed to restock on instant ramen. But most importantly, I desperately needed to buy a pair of headphones. The next morning at 9 o'clock, a knock on the door dragged me out of my sleep. Same rhythm as always, 3 knocks at a time. steady and restrained. My heart instantly skipped a beat. I bolted upright in bed, didn't even bother changing my t-shirt, and rushed to the door barefoot. I took a deep breath and unlocked it. Auntie Wang was standing out there, holding an enamel bowl. It was covered with a small plate, and steam was escaping from the edges. She had this really complicated look on her face. Her self-righteous attitude from yesterday was completely gone. Instead, she looked exactly like someone who knew they messed up, but was way too proud to admit it. So, she was trying to make up for it some other way. Breakfast. Egg noodles. She held the bowl out towards me. You young folks shouldn't eat instant ramen all the time. I looked down at the bowl of noodles. It had a clear broth with a few drops of sesame oil, and finely chopped green onions. Right on top was a perfectly poached egg, the yolk nice and round, completely intact. I looked up at her, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. Her gaze just hovered somewhere past my shoulder, her lips pressed tightly together. And her jaw was completely clenched. She looked exactly like an old veteran beating a strategic retreat. Thanks, Auntie Wang. I took the bowl from her. She gave a stiff turned on her heel, and started walking, but stopped after 2 steps. Don't stay up so late playing your games. The door clicked shut. I sat back down on the couch with the bowl, the warm steam hitting my face. I took a bite. Handmade noodles. Way better than instant ramen. But I wasn't about to just let her off the hook that easily. It wasn't that I was holding a grudge. It's just that around 10 o'clock, my phone totally blew up. I usually keep the 400-person apartment group chat on mute all year round. But now it was flooded with over 200 messages. It took me forever scrolling to figure out what was going on. Turns out, right after Auntie Wang got back from the police station yesterday, she posted a whole paragraph in the group chat. She announced that her reporting me for child abuse was, quote, cleared up as a misunderstanding, but my late-night noise complaints were absolutely justified. I hope the building management steps in. Honestly, there's nothing wrong with saying that. The problem was, somebody chimed in and completely exposed her entire history. Auntie Wang, didn't you report the 4th floor for keeping a pet dinosaur a while back? It was a parrot. It was just screeching really loud. Sounded just like a dinosaur. Oh, and what about the 6th floor running an illegal casino? It was just 4 old guys playing mahjong until 2 a.m. and bickering. And you called it a casino. And last month, you claimed the 3rd floor was cooking meth. You smelled something weird and called the cops right away. Didn't they find out they were just making stinky tofu? Suddenly, the group chat kicked off a massive, historical digging frenzy. Counting them one by one, Auntie Wang had filed 17 reports over the past year. The 4th floor dinosaur was actually a parrot. The 6th floor casino was actually grandpa's playing mahjong. The 3rd floor meth lab was actually stinky tofu. The 8th floor prostitution ring was actually just a college girl live streaming. The 2nd floor illegal arms cache was actually a nail gun for renovations. And one time she called the cops because she heard gunshots, which turned out to be a beer bottle exploding at the convenience store downstairs. The messages were flying in faster and faster. Somebody mentioned she reported a water leak in her own apartment, making the water company come out 3 separate times. Turns out, her own pipes were just broken. Someone else said she reported herself for illegally hoarding pets. But she only had 2 goldfish at home. Someone else said that because of her ridiculous reports, her boss actually pulled her in for a talk at work. I sat there holding my bowl of noodles, which had gone completely cold. I scrolled down, reading every single message, and finally set the bowl down on the coffee table. Lu Lang sent me a message too. Bro, is there something wrong with your neighbor's head? Your building's group chat is blowing up. People are already taking screenshots and posting them on social media. I didn't reply. I just kept scrolling. Someone in the group tagged me. You're Chen Yifan, right? The guy who got reported for child abuse. Man, are you alright? Holy crap, child abuse? Dude doesn't even have a girlfriend. Ha ha ha, I live on the 5th floor and even I've heard him raging at video games. Honestly, it does sound like a kid crying. But where would a kid come from? He was just playing ranked matches. I'm literally dying of laughter. Got himself sent to the police station over a ranked game. I tossed my phone face down on the couch. That water stain on the ceiling was still there. It looked like it was flipping me off. My phone buzzed again. It was an unknown number. I picked up, and it was the building management. Hello, am I speaking with Mr. Chen Yifan? I'm calling from the property management office. So, we've looked into the situation regarding the report made against you. We are incredibly sorry for the trouble this has caused you. It's fine. Also, quite a few residents have been complaining lately. They want us to crack down on these constant, malicious reports. Look, that's really none of my business anymore. Take it up with Auntie Wang. I hung up the phone and turned on my computer. I started logging the rescue data. 300 separate entries. I typed them in, one by one. Name, age, city, rescue status. Behind every single name was a real, living child. Children who had been neglected. Children who had been hurt. Children waiting for someone to help them. They weren't just some screaming voice on an audio recording. They weren't just characters on a screen. They were real, breathing people who could feel pain. When I was typing the 173rd line, there was another knock at the door. Just one knock this time, very soft. I walked over and opened it, but there was no one outside. There was a bag of fruit left on the floor. Apples and oranges mixed together in a red plastic bag. A note was clipped to the top of the bag. The handwriting was very careful, stroke by stroke. Like a grade schooler's. It read, "Little Chen, I'm sorry, I caused you so much trouble. Wang Gilan." I squatted by the door, holding the note, and stared at it for a long time. I finally picked up the fruit and went back inside. I thought that would be the end of it. Then, on the third night, Lu Lang suddenly showed up at my door. He didn't even call ahead. He just rang the bell. When I opened the door, he was holding a case of beer in his left hand. And his right hand was holding a cat carrier. Behind the mesh, a flat, orange face was glaring out at me. "Bro," he said, lifting the carrier right up to my face. "Your cat. I'm giving him back." "What?" I asked. "I'm allergic," he replied. He rolled up his sleeve to show me. His forearm was covered in patches of red hives. "It looked awful. I toughed it out for 3 months," he said. "I really can't take it anymore. If I keep him, I'll end up in the hospital." "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I asked. "I felt bad bringing it up, man. You begged me to take him because you were allergic, remember? I figured my body would just get used to it." He shoved the carrier into my arms. The cat inside let out a meow. Meow. It wasn't loud, but in the dead quiet hallway, it echoed clearly. I instinctively glanced back at Auntie Wang's door. It was shut tight. There wasn't any light coming from under the gap. "Get inside," I told him. I pulled him into the apartment and shut the door. Lu Lang crashed onto the couch, cracked open a beer, and chugged half of it. He looked around the place. "Your apartment looks exactly the same as the last time I was here. Living alone, nothing ever changes. Did you at least switch up your instant ramen flavors?" "I added pickled cabbage flavor," I said. He burst out laughing. I let the cat out. The orange tabby took a lap around the living room, jumped onto the coffee table, rubbed its head against a Coke can, and sat down right in front of me, staring. He'd gotten a lot fatter. Lu Lang must have fed him pretty well. Except for the part where he made himself allergic. "You really can't keep him?" I asked. "I really can't, man. The doctor said if I keep him, I'll have to go on steroids." He scratched at his arm. "If you can't take him either, I'll just try to find him another home." "Forget it," I sighed. "I'll just take my meds. My allergies are mild anyway. A few sneezes and I'll be fine." He looked at me, with a really complicated expression. "Bro, did you seriously end up in the police station the other day?" "Yeah, because my neighbor reported me for child abuse. All because I was yelling too loud playing video games. And because of this cat crying." He looked down at the cat. The cat looked right back up at him. "So, you see, the racket from you cursing at your video games, plus the cat yowling in the middle of the night, made the old lady next door think you were beating a kid." He stared at me in silence for 3 seconds. Then he suddenly burst out laughing. He went from chuckling to slapping the sofa, laughing his head off. He ended up doubled over, totally unable to stand up straight, spilling beer all over his pants. He was laughing so hard he was crying. "Lu Lang, that's enough. I can't. Give me a sec to catch my breath." He gasped for air for ages, wiping the corners of his eyes. "So what's the deal with the old lady now? She brought me meals for 2 days straight. Didn't bring any today. Brought you meals? She reported you, and then brought you food? Man, what kind of crazy plot twist is that? Story of my life." He cracked up again for a good while. The orange cat jumped onto his lap, and he casually gave it a couple of pats. 2 seconds later, achoo, he let out a massive sneeze. The cat got so spooked it practically launched itself onto the coffee table. It kicked over a can of Coke, spilling brown liquid all over my keyboard. I stared at the bubbling keyboard, then at Lu Lang with his nose running everywhere. Then I looked at the puffed up orange cat. "Why did you even come over here?" "To return, achoo, to return your cat, achoo." I just pushed him out the door. I shoved a pack of tissues into his pocket. "Go home and take your allergy meds." "Yeah, achoo." The door clicked shut. I turned back around. The orange cat was sitting on the coffee table. Coke was dripping down the table leg. My keyboard was totally trashed. It tilted its head at me and let out a little meow. I crouched down to look it right in the eye. "Do you realize you almost got me thrown in jail?" It just stuck out its tongue and licked its nose. I let out a heavy sigh. "All right then, welcome home, buddy." Right after I said that, there was a knock at the door again. Just a really soft knock. I got up and opened it. Auntie Wang was standing at the door, wearing her loungewear. Her hair wasn't done up, just looking a bit flat. She looked at me, and then down at the orange cat by my feet. The cat rubbed against my ankle and gave another little meow. Auntie Wang's mouth twitched into a small smile. So it was just this little guy. She crouched down. She reached her hand out, hesitating for a second, before gently resting it on the cat's head. The cat didn't back away. It just half closed its eyes, purring loudly. Auntie Wang stayed crouched there, petting it for quite a while. When she finally stood up, her knee made a loud popping sound. She had to grab the doorframe to steady herself. If he starts crying from now on, I'll make sure to keep a closer ear out. She gave a soft hum, and turned to leave. After taking 2 steps, she stopped again. About that enamel bowl, I've washed it. I'll bring it back to you tomorrow. No rush at all. She went back into her own apartment. The door clicked shut very softly. I just stood there in the hallway. The orange cat circled my feet twice, then darted right back into the apartment. The motion sensor light stayed on, but only for a few seconds. Then it went pitch black again. A week later, a notice popped up in the neighborhood group chat, sent by property management. It said the homeowners association had decided, from now on, all complaints must be filed in person at the front desk, with your real name. You also have to provide proof. And if someone makes multiple false reports, management will pay them a visit for a little chat. We all knew exactly who that notice was aimed at. The group chat completely blew up. Finally, they're doing something. Hope Auntie Wang sees this. About time. The people she reported before got totally screwed. I just watched. I didn't say anything in the chat. Li Chang from the 4th floor added me on WeChat. Hey, brother Chen, you really took a beating from that old lady, huh? Ah, I survived, I replied. Everything got cleared up. Man, you're way too laid back, he said. Last time, she reported me for keeping a dinosaur. My parrot just knows how to say, hello. But she swore up and down it was a dinosaur roar. The neighborhood committee came knocking on my door 3 times. The last time, the guy even brought binoculars. Crouched under my window, staring up for half an hour. I couldn't help it, I burst out laughing. Weren't you mad? I asked. Oh, I was furious at first. He said, but then I thought about it. She lives all alone. Her husband passed away early, and her kids live out of town. They don't even visit twice a year. If she doesn't find something to obsess over, how else is she gonna pass the time? But hey, sympathy is one thing. If you mess up, you still gotta apologize. She actually slipped an apology note under my door, too. Pretty much the same as yours. Oh, you got one too? Yeah, got it the day before yesterday. She gave me oranges. She used to give everyone else apples. I backed out of his chat, and tapped on Sister E's name. Last time at the police station, Sister He mentioned the foundation was short on community volunteers. She wasn't just saying that. She actually went and talked to Auntie Wang. Sister He called me yesterday. Told me Auntie Wang marched right into the community center and signed up. Her job? Registering information for other elderly people living alone. How funny is that? Sister He was laughing on the phone. She worked in a neighborhood committee for 30 years. She knows this stuff better than anyone. On her very first day, she completely redesigned our intake forms. They are way better than the old ones. So, is she still reporting people left and right? I asked. You'll never guess. Last week, she reported the convenience store across from the center. For what? Selling expired yogurt. And she was actually right. The consumer board went over and slapped them with a $3,000 fine. I was speechless for a moment. So, her superpower isn't totally useless after all. She just wasn't using it for the right things. Exactly. It is useful. She just had all that energy focused in the wrong place. Sister He added with a laugh. I gotta hand it to her. She is a ridiculously hard worker. After hanging up, I sat back down at my computer. On the screen, the work files and folders were just sitting there, quiet and still. All 300 relief records were fully logged. 300 names, 300 kids, waiting for a little help. I shut down the computer. I walked into the kitchen and poured some food for my orange tabby. He hopped over to the bowl, buried his face in it, and started crunching away. The sharp crunching echoed loudly in the empty house. I crouched there, just watching him for a while. I got up, picked up the enamel bowl, washed it clean, and dried it with a towel. At the bottom of the bowl was an old-fashioned factory stamp, worn down so much I could barely see it. I walked next door and knocked twice. The door opened. Aunt Wang stood there in her loungewear, holding her phone. The screen was lit up on the building's group chat. Her eyes were a little red. I washed the bowl. Here you go. Handed it over, and she took it. Her fingertips gently rubbed the rim of the bowl. Those noodles from the other day. Were they good? Way better than instant noodles. The corners of her mouth twitched. You couldn't really call it a smile, though. But that tense, defensive posture from before was gone. Don't just eat instant noodles all the time. It's bad for your stomach. That cat of yours. His name is Big Orange. Big Orange. She repeated it softly to herself. How old is he? 9 months. What do you usually feed him? Cat food. Occasionally, I'll boil some chicken breast for him. She nodded. All right, good to know. The door gently clicked shut. I stood there in the hallway, spacing out for a bit. I couldn't really figure out what she meant by knowing that. I went back inside, picked up my phone, and saw a post Lu Lang had just put up on his feed. The picture was of his forearm. The red rash had mostly faded, leaving only a few faint pink marks. The caption read, "Finally broke up with the cat. Day 7 of the breakup. My arm is all better, but my heart is broken." The comments underneath were just an endless stream of teasing. People were saying the cat was better looking than him, that the cat was right and he was wrong. Someone even asked if he was the alive and kicking guy he had mentioned on the phone. I decided to leave a comment too. You nearly got me locked up that day, you know that? He replied instantly, don't worry, I'm already prepared to bring you food in prison to make up for it. I tossed my phone onto the sofa. Big Orange jumped up and stepped right on the screen. He accidentally sent a 2-second voice message, just full of him purring. Lu Lang replied instantly, no, no, no. I'm scared now. Don't let your neighbor call the cops on me again. A month went by, and life slowly went back to normal. Or rather, it became a new kind of normal. I still worked from home, and I still ate instant noodles. But I cut down from once a day to once every 3 days. Because Aunt Wang started bringing me food every other day. The dishes were never the same. Monday was tomato and egg stir-fry. Wednesday was pork rib soup, and Friday was fish with pickled mustard greens. Even the enamel bowl was swapped out for a new one, with a blooming peony printed on the side. She never came inside. She would just leave it at the door, knock once, and leave. Sometimes, there'd be a plate covering the bowl, with a little note tucked underneath. The messages kept getting shorter and shorter. In the first week, she wrote, remember to eat it while it's hot. Cold food is bad for your stomach. Week 2, the note said, just leave the bowl by the door. Week 3, it said, I made too many spare ribs today. Here's a bowl for you. By week 4, the notes were gone. There was just a bowl of egg noodles sitting there. Exactly like the ones she brought the very first time. I ended up buying some noise-canceling headphones, too. So no matter how loud I yell on the mic while gaming, you can't hear a thing outside. But the problem is, Big Orange doesn't wear headphones. At 2 in the morning, he'd be sitting right by the balcony door, on the dot. Meowing at the moon outside. Not some shrill howl, but a low, soft, off and on kind of meow. Like he was chatting with someone. Meow, then a 2-second pause. Meow, another 2-second pause. The rhythm was perfect, like he was waiting for an answer. The first day, I scooped him up and brought him back to bed. He wiggled free and ran straight back to the balcony. Day 2, I tried bribing him with treats. He just carried them out to the balcony. Eating and meowing at the same time. By day 3, I just gave up. I lay in bed, listening to him call out, one meow after another. Meow, meow. Suddenly, I heard movement next door. A very faint sound of slippers shuffling on the floor. Then, a window sliding open. And then, Auntie Wang's voice, coming right through the wall. Big Orange? Is that you meowing out there, Big Orange? Big Orange paused for a second, and meowed back. Meow, there's a good boy. Stop your crying now. Auntie is right here. There was a second of silence. Big Orange swished his tail against the balcony railing, and didn't make another sound. He hopped back into the living room, curled up into a little ball right on my slippers. Closed his eyes, and started purring. I lay there in bed, staring up at the ceiling. That water stain was still there. It used to look like it was flipping me off. But tonight, it actually looked like a thumbs up. I rolled over and shot Lu Lang a text. No comms tonight. You guys go ahead without me. He texted back, what's wrong? I thought about it for a second, and just typed 2 words. Cat's asleep. I put my phone down and pulled up the covers. It was completely quiet outside. The light next door flicked off. Big Orange was purring away on my slippers. The instant ramen was gathering dust in the cupboard. The enamel bowl sat right there on the kitchen counter, with its painted peony facing outward. Tomorrow, Sister He is coming to check the numbers. The day after is Friday. Time for Auntie Wang to bring over her sour mustard fish. The day after that, Lu Lang said he wants to come over and see the cat. I told him, wait, aren't you allergic? He said he bought a face mask. I said, what good is a mask gonna do? He said, then I'll get a gas mask. I said, are you coming over to pet a cat, or defuse a bomb? He said he misses Big Orange. I told him, well, Big Orange doesn't miss you. He asked me how I knew. I said, because right now, the only person he cares about is Auntie Wang. After sending that text, I locked my phone and closed my eyes. It was completely peaceful out in the hall. Tonight, there was no knocking at the door.